Hello, welcome to the Thursday show at OurGame here. Delighted to be joined by Richie Power. We will have Carey in a couple of minutes. He's just a couple of technical issues in the background down in Limerick. Richie, how's everything with you?
Good, Vernie, not a bother on yourself.
Good, yeah. I'd imagine you're a happy man after the under-20 victory the other night. We were just saying off air, probably a bit more hairy than you would have liked it, but after a couple of years kind of maybe having poor results at that level and been turned over by Galway, I imagine just getting over the line is a big relief at this stage.
Yeah, look, it's huge. You know, and I think you could see that in the last kind of 5-10 minutes. I suppose a little bit of panic kind of set in. You know, I suppose after the way the last 2 years went, even for the lads on the line, you know, you could see the lads with about 5 minutes to go. There was a bit of tension coming on the faces, but no, look, it's brilliant. It's huge for Kilkenny. Like as I said, we haven't won an under-21 for, I think was it 14 years? I think they said on the television. 2009, I believe, was the last time. So it's a long time for Kilkenny not to win an under-20 or an under-21 All Ireland.
Was there a good bit of relief around the county, Richie? It's just like underage success is not everything, and development is hugely important. But for a county like Kilkenny, like your history is like your team, the team you come into at senior level, like there was so much underage success there, and you were part of one of the great kind of underage teams, even at minor in 21. Like I'd imagine it's given the county a nice bit of a lift.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, and I suppose again, you know, listening to Derek at the end of the game as well, I suppose with the way the two previous years have gone massive. I suppose we'll go in very much the underdogs into the All Ireland final, and I think it's a nice position for Kilkenny to be in, and hopefully one or two lads to come back from injury as well. So that'll really kind of set things up nicely.
Good man, you're playing it down already. In fairness to you, you're definitely playing one for the team anyway. Just a quick comment from Flash there. That under-20 All-Ireland hurling final should be immense. It'll be huge for those Limerick lads having lost to this Kilkenny group at minor level a few years back. I have to say, but looking at the Munster final, I thought it was a step ahead of the Leinster final. But from chatting to people that were down the ground in Dr. Cullen Park, conditions were way more difficult maybe than the TV kind of suggested. Very, very greasy. And there was a lot of errors in it. But listen, it's bound to be when conditions are a bit tricky. The night Limerick beat Tipperary was probably perfect conditions. Just quickly, Richie, I know you didn't see too much of it last night. The minor final between Clare and Tipperary, an absolute epic draw after normal time, draw after extra time, and then we went to penalties. Clare missed their 3 penalties. I think Tipperary scored, I don't know, did they score 3 or 4? But what do you think of penalties in general? At senior level, it's one thing. At kind of minor level, is it a fair thing for lads, some of them who are only 15 years of age, to go through?
Yeah, I suppose. Look, it's really, really hard last night. You know, as you said, 15-16 was, you know, the pressure of stepping up to a penalty with a Munster final at stake, and it's an awful way to, in my opinion. Like, you know, I know there was 2 10-minute extra times. You know, why not play another 5 each side or another 10 minutes to try and decide? Because I think it is really tough, and you know, you mentioned senior level. Even at senior level, it's tough. You know, we saw with the rugby last Munster, you know, coming down to kicks as well. Like, it's not a way you want to see big games decided. You know, it should be, you know, whoever's, I suppose, lucky enough to pop up with the next score or you know, some piece of magic that maybe wins it as well. But absolutely, look, it's heartbreaking for Clare, but you know, huge boost for Tipperary, I suppose, with the way the last kind of week gone for them to have a Munster title. And
yeah, without a doubt,
yeah, as well. So I think there'll be a bit of that for it.
Yeah, I was just chatting to Shane last night on the phone. I said Tipper back. Of course, he was beaming. He was 10 feet tall again, especially with the seniors performing well at the weekend. Shane, your own thoughts just quickly on that minor game. Having watched it, like I only saw bits of it because he was doing a bit of training, but caught it after. An absolute gripping affair, though.
Yeah, it was one of the most dramatic games I've seen in a long time. And, geez, I'd say Clare are cursing the penalty shootouts because go through the year now, they got knocked out of the Munster Senior Football Championship on penalties against Limerick and then to lose this one. But, like Paddy McCormick, obviously, Burris Lee, same as myself, but he had to step up and knock over a free from the sideline with the last puck of the game and the crowd right on top of him just to send this one into extra time. And the lad was more or less limping over to even get the ball in the first place. So it was like it showed serious cojones there in the first place to knock that over the bar. Then it went to the penalties. And I can understand what when people say, God, you can't have penalties and it's not fair and all that kind of talk. But last night will live long in the memory of these young lads, good and bad, because this game went to a penalty shootout. Sometimes full-time goes at the end of a game, and it's just like letting the air out of a balloon because it's going to a replay and there's no decision. This was drama, but like it's unfair, but life is unfair. In sport, you have a winner and a loser, and people say maybe golden score, but let's say I win the toss and my team, they decide to play with the wind for the first half, and you get a point or two ahead, and then the second half you defend against the wind. And you're just hanging on and it's a draw at the end of it. Do I continue to play on against the wind even though, you know, I've kind of served my time against the wind? So I just thought it was unbelievably dramatic. I stepped in for Kieran there, but I think Kieran is right. Funny enough, Richie's Wi-Fi goes a little bit wonky at the time. Kieran, we have you back.
You have, I think. Yeah, good to see you, lads.
Great to have you on the show. Michael, do you want to take over again now?
Yeah, no, and Kieran, while we have you, Shane, you might just fire up that clip. I don't know if you've seen this yet, Kieran. But definitely one of the more unusual things to happen in the GA in recent years. And as is often the case, it happened in a Junior B game, a Junior B football game in Kildare, where a lot of the best stories in the GA come from. Just watch this, Kieran. So he's playing while on the phone. Now that's the same men can't multitask. And he's no issue getting involved in the play here, as you'll see. He gets in around the goal to defend as well.
He's still on the phone.
He's on the ball there now and everything. I think you'll hear him saying in a second, I'm under pressure here, I have to go.
Under pressure.
Kieran, that's have you ever? What's the funniest thing you've come across in a GA game? I thought that was absolutely hilarious, and it is at those lower levels where you see some absolutely mad things happening. I remember the Offaly goalkeeper Brian Mullins. He was texting in the goals one night in a challenge game against Tipperary, and I'll never forget Joe Brady saying to me he couldn't believe he was looking back at this lad and he was texting while the ball was at the other end of the field, and when the ball came down, then he was stopping bullets at one end. Is there anything that stands out for you, Kieran, your own playing career, anything you've seen on the pitch?
Yeah, I suppose I'd be often saying, I suppose especially in the profession that I'm in, in and around the diction, I'd be often saying time to time, the mobile phone is kidnapping an awful lot of people presently at the moment, and you're actually after giving great confirmation around that. And yeah, I suppose the one thing that comes to me actually is Leonard Enright, Lord of mercy his soul. He's a Patrick Swellman. He was full back for Limerick. I know about 5 or 6 All-Stars. Lovely man. And I suppose when I started off my career, I would have played in goals. I was only 17, and Leonard would have been full back. And one of the referees in this particular game would have been extremely friendly with Leonard. So he was coming in around the square to book Leonard, but he was saying to Leonard, "Where are you going afterwards for a pint?" And Leonard answered him. He showed him the other card and he ran away.
And I'm sure they met up for a few jars later on that night and they laughed about it, I'd say.
Oh, guaranteed, yeah. That particular one now stands out now.
Richie, anything for you? Anything you're involved in yourself or anything mad you've seen on the playing fields?
No, to be honest, Bernie, no. Nothing as mad as that anyway, that's for sure. I've seen one or two lads kind of stepping in with a pair of boots or a pair of trousers into a game to make up I think it's the 13 you need to start a game, isn't it? If you're 13, you can start the game. But apart from that, now nothing as crazy as that. Anyway, that's for sure.
The other one I remember was a college's junior All-Ireland final between UCC and UL down on pitch 1 in UL. I don't know if you know the fella. He used to hurl a bit with Dixborough, Richie. Niall Morrissey's his name. He lives over in Dubai now.
I know Niall.
A bit of a character anyway, but he was hitting frees, and every time he scored a free, he kept doing the Happy Gilmore on the hurl all around the pitch. And Tomas Mulcahy's young fella, Dara, was a selector for UCC. And the big one was, if Niall got a goal, he was going to come over and he was going to shoot Dara. And Dara was going to fall to the ground. And almost like the boys are into their acting and their playing and stuff like that. But unfortunately, they never got a goal and it never materialised. But that's another one that definitely stands out for me. Kieran, just you were out of conversation there when we were just chatting about the minors and the penalties. Any particular thoughts on the penalties? And maybe, like, there's two sides of it. One thing is building resilience in a young fella and knowing that disappointments are going to come in life and in sport. Another thing is, you know, maybe is it a bit too much for maybe guys of just maybe turned 15 or gone 16?
Yeah, without a doubt. And I suppose the big one there is, I suppose, you know, it is an amateur game. And I suppose even when you're kind of in the throes of taking penalties, you know, we seldom think the knock-on effect that might have, whether it's the goalkeeper that's leaving in 4 or 5, or whether it's the player that's probably missing the goal, the knock-on effect that may have in their head. Okay, presently, that's, I suppose, the suggestion is, and what they're doing at the moment. But, you know, it's a tough one for kids, because, you know, at 15, 16, 17, you know, bottom line is you are still only an old kid, you know.
Definitely,
yeah. Is the replay ever going to come back, lads?
Doesn't look like it at the moment. The thing is, like, the Leinster final is on Monday, so you'd wonder, like, could that game have potentially be replayed Saturday or Sunday? This is probably, yeah, do you know, I'm a big fan of the split season, I have to say, just because I do think it's, you know, it opens up more avenues for club players. But we probably just need another maybe 2 to 3 weeks in the season just to give this opportunity for finals. You know, I don't know if a big
when is that minor final fixed for?
It can't be too far down the line. It's probably by the end of the month, I'd say. But that's going to All-Ireland quarter-final stages as well. So maybe another, at least Clare are not out and they're coming back into it again, which is good, because like, imagine how disappointing it would be if you lost the final on penalties and you were totally gone. At least they'll have a shot at redemption. Just a quick one, Kieran. I don't know if this has ever happened before. I know you've been asked to talk about it a million times, but we're just going to look back on a clip just ahead of the Limerick-Clare game at the weekend, the most famous moment in the history of Limerick and Clare. Just, you no need to comment on it for the moment.
The charge of the Light Brigade, 45 metres out, he's a chance to score. He's put it high, he's put it over. Are the All-Ireland champions out? Are Limerick to advance to the Munster final? The fans, the subs are ready to come in. Doesn't go next to near them. Target, but it doesn't matter. It's all over. Limerick have won. But
we might just, Kieran, I'm just going to mute it now. Can you just talk me back through this?
I got to mute it now. Come here. I'll mute you if I get my hands on you.
I know you don't like bigging yourself up. Richie, would you mind just talking me through that? What were you, 11 or 12, watching that as a young fella?
Yeah, I suppose, look, that is, it's an iconic moment, Bernie, really, like, you know, when you look back on it. I suppose Clare defending All-Ireland champions, and, you know, to make a run like that up the field as far as he went. Now, I'm surprised no one from Clare put Kieran on his hole, but you know, when you're going that far up the field. But no, look, it's absolutely brilliant, and you know what, it's one of those clips that it will be continued to be showed for many years to come. Like,
Kieran, I won't ask you about the point itself, because I know you probably don't want to talk about it, but can you talk to me just about, like, you were swallowed up. It was almost like David O'Leary after scoring the penalty in the World Cup in 1990. You stood still, I think, at the end, and it was probably the biggest mistake you ever made.
Yeah, but being honest, I have no issue talking about the point, but I didn't expect it was going to come on now, right? That's fine. Yeah, but, and I suppose the match in itself, as Richie said, you know, and I suppose that particular time, you know, Limerick would have been extremely strong. Clare were very strong. And, you know, we were beating All-Ireland 94. They won them in 95. And, you know, two very good teams. And I suppose the day in it, I remember it well, you know, it was a scorcher of a sunny day. And I mean, it was melting. And, you know, you were at the tail end of that. And, you know, at the time, you know, I did this thing as a defender that your boots had to be bang on, right? Meaning, you know, I was very conscious as a defender, if you kind of slipped or half slipped, you're giving away cheap scores. So to avoid that, I used to wear the long 1.5-inch rugby studs, right? The steel ones. So I got very comfortable playing with them in the winter. And of course, in my own little madness, even when the ground was hard, I still wore them, right? So I can remember my soles of my feet that day, they were absolutely destroyed. And as Richie said, you know, I suppose, listen, I'm surprised myself, none of them came out, and kind of bottom line, I was kind of waiting for a free or a pop-off, and it didn't happen. And I suppose as I was going on, you know, I could smell an opportunity, which was opening up. And, you know, I suppose at that time, I probably would have got slagging, but my right side might have been that strong. And I suppose anybody who had any notions about that, I suppose I've just put that to bed with that little strike.
That's gas about the boots, Kieran. Yeah,
Yeah.
The Hanafis and Offaly would have always done that in club campaigns with Burr in the winter. Big rugby cogs just to make sure that they never lost any grip. And I know lads playing in the full back line as well, where, you know, a turn and a slip and you're done. But to do that in the height of summer, I can't imagine what sort of shape your feet were in. When you're going through that, like, do you even, like, when you get the ball, is it just instinct almost? Are you just in the zone? You're not probably even really thinking about what you're doing, are you?
Well, you see, I could milk this, and I had plenty of opportunities to milk it down through the years. But the bottom line was at the tail end of the game, that possession was vital, whether it was the first possession or the second break. And, you know, I just, instinct, obviously, I took off because obviously I was waiting for a free. And, you know, as I was going on, as I said, the space opened up and the opportunity presented itself. And it went over, and, you know, I could have did a few cartwheels on the way back, but thankfully I didn't do any of that, you know. But it was a serious game, like, to be fair. And those particular games in the 90s, and like Richie, like, would have played, you know, in that type of hurling and that type of style. You know, it was a super win for us at the time, you know. And I suppose, looking back, it's all right getting those wins, but, you know, at the end of the day, you have to cross the line in the big one, and we failed in that. You know, so that particular incident is fine. Like, I wouldn't have probably realised at the time, I suppose, the importance of the score and the importance of it, and I suppose how big it got, for want of a better word. I wouldn't have spotted that at all till the time, but I suppose only with the longevity of time that I can sit back when it's up in front of me, you can say, yeah, it's a good old score.
We're just going to move on to patreon.com/OurGame. If you sign up, if you want to see the rest of the show, we'll be talking all things Limerick ahead of the big game at the weekend, and we'll be getting into depth with Richie about Kilkenny's big game in Dublin as well. But we're moving on to Patreon now.